Hello and welcome to K-Pod, the podcast about Korean Americans in arts and culture. I'm Juliana Sohn, a photographer.
And I'm Catherine Hong, a writer and editor.
Today, we are delighted to be speaking with Chef Jenny Kwak at her restaurant in Brooklyn's Park Slope, Haenyeo. If you were a young person living in New York in the 90s, you would remember Kwak's first restaurant, Dok Suni, which she opened with her mother on First Avenue in the East Village when she was just 19 years old. Its success allowed Kwak to open a second restaurant, Dohwa, in the West Village a few years later, a stylish eatery where Quentin Tarantino was famously an investor. After long runs, Kwak closed both establishments at the end of 2018. She opened the restaurant where we are today soon after. Haenyeo is named after the Korean women divers of Jeju Island. The menu, which highlights seafood, shows Kwak at the height of her creativity. It's already a critical darling and neighborhood favorite, and as Peter Wells wrote in his New York Times review, maybe Jenny Kwak's time has finally come. We are so excited to be speaking with you, Jenny. Thank you.
Thank you for having me here today at my restaurant.
So Jenny, I have some questions about the new place. You've opened 3 restaurants now. What was the process like opening this one? How was it different or familiar?
Well, I guess because I'm doing it with my husband, it was just more fun, not so, serious. Because when you have a business, there's all these things you need to think about, mostly money. So it was nice. We got to take a trip to Korea, talk over the menus, and it was nice that it wasn't all Korean. Terrence is from New Orleans. He's Cajun. So there's like a lot of, butter, bacon, fat in it. So it's nice. It's nice to experiment, add those things and, to the kinds of food I cook. But mostly it was like incorporating both worlds.
I see.
Well, I'm curious, what are some examples of things that you're serving here that you would never serve before?
Well, like the tteokbokki fondito. I was just nervous about how people would take it.
Well, what is it?
It's basically tteokbokki, really spicy, but with a load of Oaxacan cheese, which is like a denser version of mozzarella, string cheese. The flavored chorizo on it. Koreans are not really into the cumin flavor and, like the smoky, paprika kind of flavor. So I was a little bit nervous and I was like, oh man, people are just gonna slam me. But
That's one of the house favorites now, isn't it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, I took a chance, and it was pretty well received. I mean, I think Koreans have a certain flavor they like in their food, so I try to preserve that. But then I don't know. There's like the younger generation that want something a little different or with a twist. I feel like.
So can we go back in time and talk about when you opened your first restaurant? Because I just want to hear a little bit more about the fact that you opened it when you were just 19 with your mom. Where did you grow up and how did you come to open that restaurant?
I grew up in Queens, Flushing, and I don't know, I guess I was just dying to get out of Flushing. So I was lucky. I got accepted to go to art and music school in Manhattan, and I was living in the city. My mom had various businesses like all immigrant families do. They just kind of are lucky and they start businesses. And I knew she's always been a really great cook, but she's always had delis or laundromats, like really grueling work. When I got old enough, I just was like, this is just enough. She really should be doing something that, she's so great at, and I just thought, I could help her, but also just I was attending Parsons, so living in the city, I was just like, wow, there's just no Korean food here. Like I was living off ramen. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was pretty poor too, so that's what we all, all ate ramen, but I was like, wow, it'd be so good if my mom could just make some kimchi jjigae or something, around here, I could get it. So anyway, I was going to Parsons, and I wanted to be a painter, but over time, I just wasn't into the schoolwork, I like my studio classes, but I just didn't want to study. And hope my daughter's not listening to this. So I was like, I should just be working. So, and my mind was just, in the city, it was just fun. And so I was like, let's just open a restaurant with my mother.
Well, what
So
did
that's
your
what
mom
happened.
think? This is what I love to know.
She-
Generally, they want their children to go to college,
Right.
not to run a restaurant. How did that conversation?
I think she gave up on me when I said I was going to art school. So that
So
I didn't
art
have
school
that
and
pressure.
college, they were.
And did you
My
have a
mom
dad
never
around?
pressured us that way, like, to become. I know a lot of Korean American families are like, you have to be a doctor or pianist or, she tried, but, it was a lost cause. She knew.
Sorry, and was your dad around?
My father, he's actually the artist. Yeah, so when we first immigrated here, even during his service in Vietnam, he would make extra money on the side by grabbing like the American soldiers to paint portraits for them that they could send back to their families. So he's like the artist. So I guess I get that,
Oh wow.
appreciation for art. My mom is the opposite. They were always they always just let us do what we wanted, and just being in school just wasn't my thing.
So you
I
dropped
just-
out, was it sophomore year?
Yeah, and then I talked to her about opening a restaurant in the East Village. I'm like, Mom, there's like a lot of kids that just like me who want Korean food, and your food's so good, like you have to do it, like let's do it. And she's like, oh, you're so young and stupid, you don't know what you're saying, But little did I know, she was actually driving around East Village looking for spaces to.
After you said that.
After I was like,
wow.
oh, she doesn't want to do it.
So when you convinced your mom to open this restaurant, she was really the cook, and you were what? Or what was
Well-
your involvement in terms of the kitchen?
Well, you know that we had no experience in restaurants at all. We just opened it. Yeah.
How did you come up with a menu?
Yeah.
It was just like all the Korean favorites, the standards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I liked about it, because all the food was familiar to me.
Home
but
cooking.
Yeah.
It was a setting that I'd like to sit in.
Yeah.
And it was better than anything I could
Yeah,
cook, or most people
everybody, like all the Korean Americans say, this is just like my mom's
Right.
all the time.
But with
and I'm
great
like, well, it is
cocktails.
because it's my
Yeah.
mom.
Yeah.
So what were you doing at that point?
I dropped out of school and she found the space, so we just went ahead. I had friends that were in the business, so
doing
they
front
helped
of
me.
house, you were
Right.
managing, you were doing.
Right. I built a menu, like hired, my friends all worked with me, which was a good thing. So I didn't know what I was doing. And I also had friends that owned bars. So that they helped me. And then, I had a lot of support from just, we were all just young. And,
But you had a lot of support
Yeah.
from other people who were young, maybe just barely more experienced than you, and
Yeah.
you just all just
no,
kinda-
they were older. They had more experience than
okay.
me, for
All right.
sure. And I don't know. It was just not. It wasn't. I don't know. The East Village was a different place back then. It really there wasn't really any rules. You just kind of opened, and everyone was just young and hip. You could play really loud, obnoxious music. You could even smoke. I mean, back then we were
Yes.
smoking cigarettes as we
Yes.
were waiting on tables. I mean, we were just young and kind of crazy.
Can you walk us through what it was like the first day you opened until like there were lines to get in?
Yeah, I think after a year after New York Magazine wrote about my mom's pork ribs, that's when things took off. But during that first year, I mean, many nights we were just, my mother and I would just close and just like cry because we were like, what are we doing? I mean, I think we rang in like, I don't know, $75 one night. That was a really low point. And she had put, her savings and, her loans. And so it was really stressful. And I'm like, no, it's going to be okay. Like, I think you can only do it when you're young. I'm like, it's good. It's going to happen. Just wait,
I'm so struck by the relationship that you have with your mother, because you could not pay me to run a business with my mother. You're very close, and you trust each other, and you didn't mind being with her all day. And
Yeah,
all
because
night,
that must have been
sounds like.
super
Intense.
stressful.
Yeah, well, I think we always counted on each other, since we
What do you
immigrated here in the
attribute that to?
1980s.
What time? Yeah. How old were you when you came?
I was just turning 6. And, I helped her with everything, translating everything. So I guess we kind of relied on each other.
Do you have siblings?
Yeah, I have 2. And we're like 5 and 4 years apart. So they were just like babies.
You're the eldest.
Yeah. So, and, she just counted on me for a lot of things. But I mean, growing up, I cursed her for it, like she took my youth away. But it really helped form me, I think, and kind of take responsibilities on at an early age without the fear of failing, I guess, because I always saw her doing it.
Because I've heard the word badass used to describe you.
I think that means being able to take criticism or just being able to,
Fearless and persevere.
just suck it up and do it and
Yeah.
just not, But yeah, I mean, I remember it was so bad. I remember when we first opened Dok Suni's, and then I was sitting towards the front of the restaurant, and I heard this guy walk by. It was like, oh man, this restaurant sucks. I was like, oh my God. And I was so upset. I was like, gosh, what am I doing, So there's a lot of low points. At that point, you're so invested, you can't turn back. You just have to do it. And I was really lucky. I just really somehow fell in with a really cool, hip downtown crowd. There's a lot of like Supreme crowd, just
There were models
artists
eating at your restaurant.
Yeah,
I remember
and
that.
just East Village is just so cool, like full of filmmakers. Quentin came all the time, Alex Rockwell, Rosie Perez, it was fun. We had a lot of like after hours, and we, sit around, play the name game. It was fun. It was just a really great time, and good food definitely helped. That was what, otherwise I don't think people would have
Exactly.
hung out there.
Yeah.
And for a lot of non-Koreans, it was their first Korean restaurant.
Yeah. I get that a lot, and I'm really grateful. But it was a special time, and I think I was like there at the right time. It was just kind of like the explosion with, I guess, Chinese and Japanese kind of had its. Well, it's still amazing, but
I don't
just Korean food
know.
wasn't really introduced yet.
Yeah.
So I think it was the right.
I mean, I think
Time.
it was great that it was there, but I think you were so far ahead of that Korean kind of food craze.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like there was a rash of other Korean restaurants that opened up right after you,
Mm-hmm.
because even if they had the food, it's the vibe and the crowd that was frequenting that you
It's
just
the
could
people.
not you couldn't replicate that.
No, I know. It was really special.
I think that added to the cool factor where there was a certain kind of like the people who worked there felt like an ownership of the space, that you were coming into their space and it was their vibe, that you were partaking in.
Yeah, it was really great. I wish it's funny because I was kind of trying to do what I had at Dok Suni's here, so Terrence and I were both trying to get back to that a bit, like the casualness. Yeah, I mean, so I just did whatever I wanted to do with the menu, and I just thought, people will hate it or they'll like it, just have to do it.
But, it's interesting that you say that you were trying to kind of replicate the Dok Suni experience because you're, a lot older now. This space is so much bigger and it's so elegant and pretty.
You think so?
Yeah.
We were trying not to be elegant and pretty, though. We're trying to be
describe it. It's very sunny, white walls, a lot of green plants.
But I think a lot of it is that there's this sense of airiness and light. That is
we're older
really
now.
nice.
We need more light.
I was saying that I thought it was interesting that this seemed to be the restaurant that maybe, Dok Suni was the restaurant that you needed when you were 19, but maybe this is the restaurant that you need now.
Exactly. Yeah, we were really just trying to create a space that we knew we'd be spending a lot of time here, so we wanted to really love it. So it does kind of feel homey. That was number one thing.
How did you decide to open in Brooklyn after Manhattan?
We both needed a break from Manhattan. Well, the rents are really crazy. And also just the energy is just, we just both needed, like, we just wanted a nice, cute little neighborhood, kind of like what the East Village was like to us. And we were looking in all areas, really. We were considering Midtown by Nomad area. Like, we looked everywhere. We wanted to be in Wall Street for a while. But this was, I don't know, this little corner just really appealed to us. We were really lucky. We found this place. It was not on the market yet. So we just grabbed it. And it's been really good. It's just perfect. It's like we just wanted a nice little neighborhood.
Tell us a little bit how you came up with the inspiration for this place, the Haenyeo.
That was the hardest part. We didn't know what we were going to call it. So it took a long, long time. But then it just kind of happened one day. And, you know, my husband was always trying to make a film on the Haenyeo, and he's always been obsessed with these women. They are the women divers from Jeju. They're called sea women, and they dive without any kind of gear. And basically, you know, they're diving to make a living. They forage for these things in the depths of the sea, and then they clean it, take it to the market, sell it, and take the money home to raise their kids. There was a lot of publicity around it in the 1960s, 70s. They're really amazing women, and what they do, what they have to do is what's so interesting.
Duk-Sunee was definitely the the gateway Korean experience as far as food goes for a lot of New Yorkers. And now there's so many Korean restaurants, so many Korean chefs, and cookbooks and TV shows. What do you make of that now, having been like one of these trailblazers?
I think it's great. I think it's great, all this exposure. And I think what's actually really great about Korean food is I feel that there's a lot of chefs doing new things to Korean food.
Are you friendly with the other Korean chefs, like David Chang and all those?
No.
Yes.
I have not had the opportunity to meet anybody yet.
Are you
I wasn't really
serious?
called a chef till now.
Ah.
I was always
Why is
front
that?
of house, so yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't do.
You didn't make a lot of chef friends.
I don't do a lot of events. I don't go out and do. But I'm just not connected that way, and now I'm really not in front of house, so I don't really see people coming in.
You know, you did have your own path. Like, you didn't go to culinary school. You didn't work for a famous chef. Like, you came about it as a chef owner, which is unusual. So I can see how you were insulated from that.
Yeah.
You didn't work for some.
Yeah, that's true.
You didn't work in a bunch of kitchens.
Yeah, I didn't come from the institution.
Or work under
Yeah.
somebody, or have the backing
Yeah,
of
totally.
a big
I
restaurant.
mean, I have friends that are chefs, and I don't know. I guess I did mostly learn under my mom's belt, but not belt, but that sounded bad.
I have a question about your mom. So, is she still involved with your business? Is she retired?
No, she's retired, but she's still helping me because, you know, she thinks that she needs to help me. And I'm glad, because it's a lot of work.
I heard that she's making all the kimchi for the restaurant.
Yeah. I mean, she'll do the sauce, you know, and she's not really willing to, show me her sauce yet.
Oh my gosh.
That's crazy. And
So
where
she's still got the, the spunk, it's mine. But no, I'm just kidding. She's here because, she wants to help me, and she wants to help me do well. So
Now, did you and your mom never have a screaming fight or power struggle or anything? What was that like?
oh no, we fight a lot, a lot. Yeah, and it's it was. I mean, I know it was hard on people around us as well.
Like, what kind of fights? Like, what would be your issues?
Gosh.
Like, you're doing something wrong, or
Mostly clashing of opinions, and then when it comes to business, it's hard because I think she has a hard time giving decision making to me, but in the end, it's, what I know best. So in a way, it's the relenting that I think is hardest. it's still a learning process for me, this whole thing of having a business. So I'm not saying I'm always right, but sometimes my instincts just tell me, well, this is, has to get changed, and she doesn't like to, really change things. So that's where it's the clash of the old and the new. That's exactly what it is. At the end of the day, we always make up.
And you have a 15-year-old daughter.
Yes.
Does she like to cook, and does she speak any Korean?
No, she doesn't speak any Korean, and she's really upset about it. And this is really awful to say, but again, I'm always working, and so I'm kind of doing what my mom did to me, I guess, in a way. And I just wish I had invested more time to push her to pursue things. But again, I do my best to show my daughter different things you can do, and I just kind of let her fall in love with what she wants to do. And she wants to do research, like she loves math and science, which I do not like. So I just, push her to do what she loves to do. I don't push art on her really, or I do want her to learn how to speak Korean, but I think she needs to learn that by herself in Korea.
Yeah.
So I hope she will travel and do that. And I'll help her, of course, but I just wasn't one of those moms that was like, you have to learn Korean like right now at the age of 5, or,
Did you feel like because you didn't go to college, you have a different attitude towards school than maybe her friends' parents have, or?
No. I mean, I regret, not staying in school.
You do?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
It worked out just fine.
Yeah, it worked out just fine. But, I still would have loved to have had a career in, painting. Restaurant work is really grueling, and it's not really something I want for my child. But if she wants to do it, yes, whatever she wants to do. I think at the end of the day, my parents are always they left me to decide what I wanted to do. And I think that's what I want to do that for her, because I think it's kind of like, it's sad to me sometimes when people like my age are like, well, I was, I have to get this kind of job, or, go after this career because that's what my parents want. I mean, it's like, at this age, when you're in your mid-40s, you're like, it doesn't matter. It's just how you want to live your life. But you have to, of course, like, be fulfilled. And I think that's where the parent role comes in. You have to teach your child to feel fulfilled. And, Olivia's at the age where now she wants to do those things. And I think it works better that way, as opposed to, but then again, that's just my parenting skill. I wish I did other things too, that it just depends, I guess, on the mom, what they want for their children. Olivia's very independent. She takes care of herself. She gets up, she makes her own breakfast. She'll call herself a lift when she wants. We work every night, my husband and I, so she's at home, she does her homework. I'm sure on the phone a lot. But she'll
But she's
order
at
her
home
own.
by herself
Yeah, she
every
orders her own dinner and Grubhub. I mean, it's really convenient the way things are set up these days. I don't really worry about her when I'm at work. I know she can take care of herself. It's good, but I think in the end, I think this is the way I always, pictured how she would grow up.
There's a strong woman theme through all your restaurants, and just the way you've lived your life, the fact that you work with your mother and you have a daughter now who's incredibly independent. I know that the chef world can be very male dominated, and you've sort of maybe bypassed some of that because you've had your own spaces for your career. But do you feel that there has been any sort of discrimination, or it's been harder? Being a minority, being a woman.
Yes to all of that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the fact that you weren't considered a chef until this restaurant.
Yeah, well, it was because my mother was always the chef.
I see.
I always ran front of house.
I see. That's the distinction.
But, over the years, naturally, I end up back there with her. So I've had like 20 plus years training on Korean food, you know. It kind of, happened naturally, but then, I always knew that this is what I was going to pursue. I'm not really into this whole celebrity chef thing.
Mm-hmm.
I just see it as like if you're an artist, a photographer, a writer, chef, it's just what a doctor, it's a job, and that's how I approach it as a skill. This is my skill.
I think that sort of like very humble take on the fact that you are a chef and it's a job is probably like we could see it in the food and we can experience it in your space. It sort of like permeates the whole atmosphere of your restaurants. But I think it's really interesting that because you have such a humble attitude towards your own work, that it's almost like seen as downplayed, within the restaurant community.
Yeah, I don't think I like attention really, and that's probably the reason. I want to do a good job, and that's the way I can go to sleep at night. I don't think I can do this if I didn't feel like I was doing a good job. And I definitely love it, but it has its challenges. Physically, it's really hard physically, and I think that's where I find my frustration is that I always do need that guy to help me lift this or get that, or and it is a very male-dominated profession. So even when you're dealing with certain like purveyors or other professionals in the business, it's frustrating, the things that they assume.
Yeah. So then when people write things like, oh, maybe your time has finally come, I mean, do you have any desire to like build an empire or a brand and have, this like thing other than just this restaurant out there?
Yeah, I mean, I have some ideas. I can't necessarily say it would be Korean, but I just, I also learned I think it's good to be ambitious. And I think I always was at an early age, but I think now that I'm older, I just feel like, I want to be out there and see things. So now I'm just kind of in a discovery phase, and that's what I'm kind of focusing on.
So Jenny, thank you so much for having us and speaking with us.
Thank you.
Where can people find you online?
You can find us at haenyeobk.com.
And your Instagram handle is at
haenyeobk.
Thanks, Jenny.
Thank you.
K-Pod is a production of KoreanAmericanStory.org. Our producer is Kevin Park. Our editor is AJ Valente. And our executive producer is HJ Lee. You can email us with comments and suggestions at kpod@koreanamericanstory.org. You can see Juliana's portraits of our guests and some behind-the-scenes photos at koreanamericanstory.org. You can follow Juliana on Instagram at Juliana_Sohn. For news and updates on K-Pod, follow Korean American Story on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.